Good morning. Welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Monday, April 6th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps, which are trading higher. We're up 0.07%. We were up 0.1% a moment ago. I saw us up about 0.25% earlier this morning. So we have pulled back a little bit. But it's really, the market's cautious on these Middle East headlines. Now, the latest is that there's indication that there's a 45-day ceasefire being discussed. This is a fluid situation. Talks are being discussed as being frantic, but we'll have to wait and see, because yesterday on Sunday, President Trump delivered a direct warning to Iran and stated that the U.S. could begin targeting key infrastructure, specifically power plants and bridges, by Tuesday if they do not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So we got to wait to see what these talks hold and look for some headlines coming out. But the latest reports do indicate that the ceasefire talks are fluid, and that's positive for the market. At least it's not negative. And Trump is scheduled to speak today at 1 p.m., so we're going to wait and see what he has to say. On Friday, we had that non-farms payroll report, which was released. Now, the markets were closed, but the data really did point to a resilient market with job growth coming in much stronger than expected. But you got to look at this as a moving average. So, on a moving average, it's still positive. It's like 68,000 on a 3-month moving average, but that's still, strong. Also on Friday, a federal judge rejected the DOJ's request to for him to reconsider his decision that squashed the subpoena for Jerome Powell. Now, the Department of Justice plans to appeal, which is kind of an issue because that's going to likely delay the confirmation hearings for President Trump's nominee, Kevin Warsh. So he wants this guy in there. Your DOJ is going to continue to, play out this on legal measures. I think they're going to wind up giving up because they want to try and get Walsh in there. And as long as this these legal actions are underfoot, we are not going to see a vote or confirmation hearing for Kevin Walsh. So this is going to be, we're going to get more on this later this week, I'm sure. On the economic front, inflation is always key. And today we get the ISM Services Index, which is due out this morning. This is a March inflationary number, so this could be important to watch. In deal news, ticker NBIX, they're nearing a deal to buy SLNO for $2.5 billion. This is all about weight loss drugs. PSky is in talks for an equity commitment of $24 billion from 3 sovereign wealth funds led by Saudi Arabia to help back its takeover of Warner Brothers, WBD. What else do we have? JP Morgan released their 2025 annual report this morning. Over the weekend, Google came out with a white paper that warned quantum computing could hack cryptocurrency codes in under 15 minutes. I believe they said 8 or 9 minutes, but I'll just say under 15 minutes. I mean, listen, this raises concern for cryptocurrencies, but this morning it doesn't seem to be having too much of an effect. But we got to keep an eye on that because that will probably get out there more and more over the coming weeks and months. Earnings this week: Levi Strauss, Constellation Brands, Delta Airlines, RPM, and WD-40 are all scheduled to release. Okay, now we're taking a look over Europe, and there's nothing really happening in Europe because all the markets are closed because they're still closed for the holiday. And then you take a look at Europe, you take a look at Asia, and Asia was mainly closed as well. Hong Kong was closed, and China was closed due to a holiday, but the Nikkei was open. The Nikkei gained 0.55% or 290 points, and it was done really due on the back of tech stocks moving higher. Gains in tech stocks really did help. Then we're turning our attention over oil, and oil is weakening this morning. You got WTI at $110.22 a barrel. That's down 1.18%. You got Brent at 108.75. That's right, 108.75, down 0.26%. Notice that WTI is actually closed higher than Brent. So we're in this situation where we have higher WTI prices than Brent, which really is, market mechanics. May deliveries versus June deliveries. May barrels are exceptionally scarce, whereas in July, which is what Brent's trading on, that data continues to be uncertain. So we're cautious there. I'm not too crazy about WTI trading higher than Brent, but I do think it's just more of a reflecting that we're looking at different months on those contracts. But WTI was trading higher last night. We had 2% gains last night when the session opened up, and now we're seeing losses of 1% on WTI. So These news on Iran is really causing the oil markets to pull back a little bit. It's cautious, though. It's very cautious. We'll wait. We'll see. We'll have more direction at 1 p.m. when Trump starts to speak. Earnings this week: Levi Strauss, LEVI, Constellation Brands, STZ, Delta Airlines, DAL, RPM Industries, ticker RPM, WDFC, WD40. They're all coming out this week. In terms of economic support, ISM Services Index for March, inflationary report. Expectations are for a reading of 54.7, which is slightly below the February reading of 56.1. Then we get another inflationary report, which is the CPI report for March, which is coming out, I believe, on Friday. That's going to be that's expected to show that inflation is climbed 0.9% on a monthly basis. So and this is all due to the elevation of oil prices, because when we had oil prices it's at $67, everybody was happy, and now we're 40% higher than that. That's causing the inflation. Okay, we're moving on to stocks hitting the tape. Google, their white paper on quantum computing, being able to hack cryptocurrencies. I mean, listen, I'm looking at the cryptocurrencies this morning, and guess what? They're trading higher. They're up 3-4%. So I don't think that news is really out there. I don't think they've really put in there the valuation of how these quantum computing can really damage that sector. Meta Platforms, Meta-backed data centers looking for $3 billion in construction loans. Netflix trading higher. Major broker gave it a big upgrade. Tesla delivered, their deliveries came in lower than expectations, lower than the expectations. And then there's a major broker that sees a 60% downside for the shares. So, that's not really positive for Meta, that's for sure. And you look at the stock this morning, and it's not really doing much. 364.32. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Then we're talking Dow Jones 30 stocks. Microsoft, they're developing their own frontier AI model targeting for delivery of 2027. Walmart executives are going to be participating at the Citadel Securities Retail and Consumer event tomorrow. JP Morgan published their annual report this morning. Diamond notes that war-related risks may lead to stickier inflation, higher interest rates than the market expects. Very true. But he did note that private credit probably does not present a systematic risk. And remember, this is really geared towards the private credit which is going on in software stocks. So we could see a little bit of bounce in software stocks today and over the next coming weeks. Keep an eye on that. In terms of merger news, NBIX wants to develop new obesity drugs, and it's making an acquisition to accelerate that move by taking over Solano Therapeutics, SLNO, for $2.9 billion. Gulf funds apparently have agreed to back Paramount's $81 billion takeover of Warner Brothers WBD. Now we're just moving on to catalyst calls. Analog Devices, ADI, Citibank places the stock on an upside 30-day catalyst watch. Ticker ADI, Apple David India. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to be talking about our stock of the day. I'm going to go with RTX, Richard Tom X-Ray this morning. Trump released his budget today. So that's kind of positive, and that could create a tailwind for the stock to move higher. I mean, you look at Thursday's call volume, 87,000 contracts on the call side versus 2,700 contracts on the put side. That's a major divergence. Open interest 137K versus 97K, but this budget is really going to be beneficial for RTX because they could get a significant uptick in terms of money being allocated to them. Brokers remain positive on the stock. They're lowering some price targets because the market's pulled back, but they're still positive RTX overall. But for me, my entry point is 196. I want to get in 196 area, give or take 10 cents, but that's my pick of the day. RTX Corp, Richard Tom X-Ray. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to start talking about the stocks that are moving the market today. Let's see what we got here. MOBX, Mobix Labs secures $3.2 million order for TSA scanner technologies. Broadridge, BR, they're extending their governance platform to support digital assets. United Airlines, ticker UAL, announced new tiered fare structure. Biogen, ticker BIIB, they expect Q1 results to include $34 million expense on a pre-tax basis. Put out a regulatory filing. JP Morgan, Diamond says U.S. economy continues to be resilient. ServiceNow, ticker NOW, CEO builds new business model around AI. Time Community, ticker DCOM, they're going to transfer to the NYSE for their listing. Interesting. SpaceX said to target a more than $2 trillion valuation in its IPO. UPS Teamsters settle on driver severance packages. PepsiCo drops its sponsorship of a music festival in the UK, sponsoring where Kanye West was headlining. Costco expected to release its March sales figure on Wednesday afternoon. JP Morgan, that retail roundup conference is April 8th through 9th this week. Could be something there. I know Ulta Beauty's going to be there. Regulators then probe into Tesla actually smart summon feature after software fixes. All right, that's all I'm seeing this morning. All right, let's move on and let's talk about our pick of the day from Friday. I mean, listen, I went with Verizon. It was kind of a crazy day in the markets, but, you know, I mean, it wasn't a bad pick. It was a safe pick. I mean, that's what I said. It was a safety play. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the numbers, the stock opened up at $49.81 and fell down to $49.28. Now, I had said $49.20, and you know, so I'm still away from it, but it did close higher. It did close, you know, higher from my entry price. So, you know, it, closed at $49.38, and, you know, this morning the stock's trading $49.50. But, you know, it was a positive trade, but it never hit my entry point. So, you know, I'll call it flat, but it definitely wasn't a loser. And Friday was an ugly day, but, you know, we managed to stay safe with a good entry point. All right, traders, that concludes today's podcast. You guys know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.